What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Jacob and we've got another D&D video here for you today. This video is going to be a brief overview of the 12 classes in the player's handbook and how they supplement the party and how they play at early levels for a new player, or whether it's your 100th time playing and this is the class you've never played before. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First up in the player's handbook is the Barbarian. The Barbarian is going to be the go-to class if you want to be the damage dealer or tank for your party. At first level you get things like Rage, which gives you into a battle frenzy and you take half damage as long as it's not an elemental source of damage. And you also get something called Unarmored Defense, so you don't have to wear any armor as long as you have a decent constitution and dexterity score to start out. At second level you get Reckless Attack, which lets you have advantage on enemies while you're raging, but attacks against you also have advantage, but since you're raging you're going to take half damage anyway if they hit you. And you also get something called Danger Sense, which gives you advantage on dexterity saves against things you can see. At third level you get to choose your primal path or your subclass, which we'll get into in a later video. And at 5th level you get extra attack, 9th level you get brutal critical. And even at later levels of play in D&D, Barbarians are still viable and extremely effective. Second class we're going to go over today is the Bard. The Bard is widely regarded as one of the best classes in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and rightfully so. You take your lute, your flute, your guitar, your xylophone, your drum set, whatever you want to use, stroll into town with your party and dish out some of the best support and spells in the game. You have Bardic Inspiration, which lets you hand out a d6 to members of your party for a few times per day, and they allows them to add that d6 to anything besides damage rolls. But if you keep leveling up in Bard, they can eventually add it to damage rolls depending on what Bard college you choose, which is a subclass. The Bard also gets Jack of all trades and Song of Rest at second level. Jack of all trades just adds half your proficiency bonus to literally every skill that you have that you're not proficient in, and Song of Rest lets you heal for extra during a short rest. At third level, you're going to get what Bard college you choose, so your subclass, and you also get Expertise in 2 skills of your choice, so you're double proficient in skills you were already good at. You also have the ability to swap out spells at every level, which for some of the other casters you can do a little bit more frequently, but like I said, take your DM's campaign setting into effect when you're choosing your spells so you're the most effective. Next up we have another full caster in the Cleric. The Cleric is typically considered one of the healers in D&D, but depending on what divine domain you pick at first level, you can go and be a frontliner, you can choose to be a healer if you'd like to, or you can be a support player. The Clerics are handy in any party and have some of the best healing spells in the game if you choose something like the life domain. The Clerics have the ability at second level to have channel divinities to get help from the god that they look up to or pray to. You have the ability to call upon your deity to destroy undead. So if you're in Tomb of Annihilation or anything that is very undead heavy, Cleric is super helpful. To turn undead, you use your action and you shine a bright blinding light, or however you want to flavor it, and destroy undead, turn undead, make them afraid of you if there's a challenge rating of half or lower. At higher levels, you get access to destroy undead, so when you use this, they are just dead. They're not frightened and have to run away. They're gone. Depending on what domain you pick, you have certain spells that you could choose as well in addition to that. Unlike the Bard, where you can only choose spells when you level up, a Cleric can choose and swap out their spells each day. So you don't have to be as selective with whatever spells you want to use. You can try out a spell for a day, and if it's not working out for you, you can just choose another one and go out there and rock Spirit Guardians or Guiding Bolt all the time and have a completely fortified radiant bubble around you. Clerics are very awesome. I'm playing one in the campaign right now and I love it. Clerics are amazing to have in your party, and whether you're a first timer or a seasoned vet, there's always new ways to try and play them. Do you consider yourself at one with nature? Do you like going on hikes, going to the beach, or various outdoor adventures? Or do you see yourself turning into various animals and ripping your opponents into pieces? Well then, maybe you should check out the Druid, which is the next class on this list. The Druid at level 1 is going to start out knowing Druidic, which is a secret language only known to Druids, which could play to something in your backstory or a character arc if you confer with your DM, and you get access to spells. At level 2, you choose your Druidic circle, which is your subclass essentially, and you get the ability to wild shape. Wild shaping is you turning into a beast you've seen before under a certain challenge rating, DM approved of course, and you can do that in a certain amount of times equal to your proficiency bonus, I believe. It's pretty nice, and the extra pool of hit points makes you a little bit tankier than you normally would be. Later on, as you level up more into Druid, you're going to get certain Druidic features depending on the circle that you chose, and your wild shape ability is also going to improve. You'll eventually be able to turn into something that has a swimming speed and eventually a flying speed, and at high levels of D&D play, you're eventually going to be able to cast spells while you're in your beast form, and eventually be able to wild shape an unlimited number of times per day, not just equal to your proficiency bonus. It's a pretty cool combo. Check it out. Next up on the list is the Fighter. The Fighter is going to be possibly the most versatile martial archetype in the entire game, and gives you a really cool way to play the martial class without just swinging at stuff like a Barbarian if you find that to be a little bit repetitive. Whether you're a new time player or a veteran player, this is something you should always look at to incorporate into your party. At first level, you get to choose your fighting style, which lets you either beef up your range attacks or your AC, just to name a few, and you get something called Second Wind, which lets you heal yourself as a bonus action for 1d10 plus your fighter level. At second level, you get Action Surge, which lets you on your turn use another action, so you can attack, Action Surge, attack again, or do something else with that second action. At third level, you get to choose your archetype or your subclass. Fifth level, you get extra attack, you also get improved critical and things like that. So all these things scale really well at later levels of play, which makes it a very excellent option to go all your levels into, or like I was saying earlier, something to dip into with multi-classing to give you some of these features to round out your character or however you'd like to play them. Next on the list, and possibly my favorite class, is the Paladin. The Paladin is technically considered a half caster, so you don't get access to the very high damaging 9th level spells. I believe you're capped out at 5th level spells, but you are the nuke on your team if you play it right. At first level, you get Lay on Hands, so you can touch a creature, including yourself, and heal a certain amount of HP every day from a HP pool. And you get Divine Sense, so you can sense whether there's like a fiend, a celestial, or demon kind of around within 30 or 60 feet of you. At second level, you get Divine Smite, which is where a lot of your spell slots are going to go to. A Divine Smite lets you sacrifice one of your coveted spell slots to do an extra 2d8 radiant damage to a creature, or if they're undead, it's a 3d8 radiant damage. And that's only for a first level spell slot. If you use a second, third, or fourth, you add a d8 for each spell slot above first level. So you can have the potential to deal out an insane amount of damage using your Divine Smites and burning those spell slots. To get your Sacred Oath at third level, which is your subclass, so you have a couple different options of what you're going to choose and have access to different spell lists with each Sacred Oath. And then at later levels, you have your Lay on Hands gets increased to a larger hit pool, the extra attack, and things like that that make the Paladin really viable at extremely high levels of play and a really good support character with the auras that you get to buff up your allies. Next class on the list is the Ranger. If you ever wanted to play Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, this is the class you want to look into. The Ranger at first level gets the ability to have a favorite enemy and a favorite terrain. So you can choose aberrations, monstrosities, undead, giants, dragons, fae, whatever. You choose a creature class and you can have advantage on tracking that enemy within the area around you. Instead, you can also choose to take 2 humanoid classes, such as humans or orcs or trolls or whatnot, and you choose 2 of those instead of just the 1. Your favorite terrains, such as desert, grasslands, mountain ranges, forests, you have certain buffs that allow you to traverse that favorite terrain without incurring difficult terrain, resting buffs, and things like that. Second level gives you access to spell casting. Third level, you get to choose your subclass, and fourth level, your ability score increase. Your fifth level, extra attack, and as you get on to the later levels, you can do some of the other things that the other classes do, such as turn your bonus action into the hide action like a rogue. You get a fighting style as well, like a fighter or paladin. So if you ever wanted to kind of encompass a little bit of everything from every class, the ranger is going to be something to look at for you. Ever want to play the life of a pickpocket or a spy or the deceiver in a campaign? Then the rogue is probably the class for you. At first level, you get sneak attack and expertise. Expertise gives you proficiency and an extra skill, and sneak attack, once per turn, as long as you have advantage, gives you an extra d6 on your attack. If you don't have advantage, as long as there's someone friendly within 5 feet of the creature you're attacking, you can still do this. You also get things like uncanny dodge and evasion, which lets you have AoE spell damage. Uncanny dodge lets you have melee attack damage. And then you have things like cunning action at 3rd level, which lets you dash, hide, or disengage as a bonus action. So if you don't have advantage, you can bonus action hide, give yourself advantage, attack, and then use sneak attack. Rogues are super fun, and whether you go all rogue or you multi-class into them, they're really handy to have in the party, and like I said, really fun to play. Next up, we have the Sorcerer. In my opinion, a little bit of one of the more complicated spellcasters to play, only due to the meta magic, which we'll get into in just a minute. At first level, you get to choose your origin of your power, whether it's through a draconic bloodline or a wild magic surge of power that's been coursing through you just now, and you have no idea how to control your powers. It gives you really cool options to roleplay and flavor your sorcerer at the get-go. Now at 3rd level, you get your meta magic, and this is where things can sit to be a little bit complicated for newer players. You choose a meta magic option to boost your spells. They have something called like Careful Spell, which if you do an AoE spell like Fireball, you can choose friendly creatures and they automatically succeed on the saving throw. You also have things like Subtle Spell, so you can do that without having vocal or somatic components. So you can quietly, is the word I'm looking for, cast a spell like a bar without anybody noticing. You can Heighten Spell that gives disadvantage on saving throws. You have Quicken Spell, which lets you take a spell that's usually an action to cast and cast it as a bonus action, and then you can still cast a cantrip. There's some really cool ways to play with the Sorcerer, but for newer players it might be a little bit more complicated, but still a ton of fun, and you can check it out. Continuing with the spellcasters, we have the Warlock. Making a pact with an otherworldly creature or patron, the Warlock has made a deal and is set on their adventure at whatever their patron deems them to do. The Warlock is probably one of the slower progressing spellcasters here, as they have a very limited number of spell slots that do recover on a short rest, but if those aren't prevalent in your game, you could be in for a world of hurt if all you get are a long rest every couple of sessions. The Warlock is really known for just casting Eldritch Blast all the time, as it's one of the most powerful cantrips in the game and scales really well for later level play, but with the lack of spell slots, it's kind of all they can do. At 1st level, you choose the pact of the otherworldly creature that you would like, whether it's the Archfey, the Fiend, or the Great Old One, or something else from another source book. And from there, you kind of progress into your spells and your boons that your otherworldly patron gives you at later levels, which at 3rd level, you get your first boon. Choose the pact that you would like to kind of flavor your Warlock a little bit more. If you want to be more of a martial class, maybe you choose Pact of the Blade. If you want to focus on spell casting, maybe a Pact of the Tome. And that allows you to kind of delve a little bit more into the kind of Warlock that you would like to build for later on. Warlocks also get access to invocations, which essentially empowers their Eldritch Blast or gives them some other senses that will help them along the way, such as Devil's Sight, which lets you see through magical darkness, or Agonizing Blast that does, pushes your enemy creature that hits you with Eldritch Blast an extra 10 feet, things like that. There are certain prerequisites for some Eldritch invocations, and there are also locked behind some of the pacts that you choose. So if you choose Pact of the Blade, you get some access to specific invocations, but you get locked out of some other ones because you have to have a Pact of the Tome instead. So definitely look into the Warlock in the player's handbook or online a little bit more before you choose which one, because you don't want to be locked out of something that you might find cool or might be very helpful in your campaign. Last but certainly not least, we have the Wizard, the intelligence-based spellcaster known for having some of the most powerful spells in the game at their fingertips. At first level, you have your spellcasting with your spellbook, and this is going to be your spellcasting focus and how you learn all of your spells. You can copy spells into this spellbook during a short rest because it takes about 2 hours, and I think like 50 gold technically to copy them into your spellbook. When you level up, you can choose 2 spells to add into your spellbook up to the level of spell slots that you have. So if you have access to 4th level spells, you can do 2 2nd level spells to inscribe or 1 4th level spell to inscribe into your spellbook. So the Wizard is a little bit more picky on how you prepare and select the spells you want to know. Cantrips are ingrained into your mind, so you don't really have to worry about those. But Wizard spell selection is very in-depth and very particular, so just be careful about that. At 2nd level, you choose what school of knowledge you'd like to go to for your Wizard, whether it's abjuration, conjuration, illusion, divination, things like that. Wizards are very fun, very cool, and very powerful, but like I said, the only downside pretty much is that they're very squishy. So I know we said the Wizard was the last class that we were going to go over, but we went through the whole video without talking about the Monk. The Monk is another martial class in Dungeons & Dragons that's fairly easy for new players to jump into and play out the get-go. At first level, you get unarmored defense just like the Barbarian, but instead of it being your Constitution modifier that you add, it's Wisdom and Dex plus 10. You also get Martial Arts, which lets you use unarmed strikes and monk weapons, which are short swords and simple weapons that aren't two-handed and heavy, where you can use your dex modifier instead of strength for attack and damage. You can roll a d4 instead of a normal damage die. That d4 scales up as you level up, so it may end up being better than a short sword later on. And you can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, which is pretty nice if you haven't taken one already. At level 2, you get access to your key points, which allow you to channel your ki into some very cool features that you get only with the Monk, such as Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. Flurry of Blows, you spend a key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action if you haven't taken one already. Patient Defense allows you to take the dodge action as a bonus action, and Step of the Wind allows you to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action if you haven't taken one already. You also get unarmored movement, which increases your speed by 10 if you're not wearing a shield or armor. At 3rd level, you get access to your subclass, an ability called Deflect Missiles. If you are hit with a ranged attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage by 1d10 plus your dex modifier plus your level in Monk. And if the ranged attack is an ammunition that's small enough to fit in one hand, you can use that same reaction to make a ranged attack with that same piece of ammunition. At 4th level, you get an ability score increase and slow fall, which allows you to reduce your fall damage by, I believe, 5 times your level of Monk, which is pretty nice. At 5th level, you get extra attack and stunning strike, where if you hit a monster or creature, you can stunning strike them and they have to make a Constitution save, or they are stunned till the end of their next turn, which is a very nice power to have. 6th level, you get empowered strikes. Your unarmed strikes are considered magical, so that can overcome magic resistance. And at 7th level, you get evasion, and you get some other abilities later on down the line, but the Monk is a pretty nice and easy subclass to get into if you want to be a martial class. Now, while they don't have some of the prowess that the Fighter, Paladin, and like Barbarian have, they're still a fun thing to play. If you looking for inspiration, I would check out Dimension 20, Emily Axford's Shadow Monk and Unsleeping City, and Zach Oyama's Way of the Long Death Monk and A Crown of Candy are really nice, flavorful characters and show off the abilities of the monks very well. Thanks for sticking with me, everyone. That's going to be the end of this video. Like I said, it's just a very brief overview of the 12 classes in the Player's Handbook and some of the features that they gain in the early levels. If you guys want to see subclass stuff, let me know down in the comments below, or like this video and subscribe so I know that you're enjoying the content and you want more D&D content. Super passionate about it. I love the game. I've only been playing for about a year or two, but it's something I find great joy in. I DM as well, so if you guys want DM content, let me know down in the comments, and I'll be happy to get started working on some videos for you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.